no one can really see this because I'm in the back here, but the countdown timer it was like a Starship Enterprise level technology. I mean, it was really cool, by the way. That is not our topic today. Is not Starship Enterprise countdown timers. Really, it's about social media, and to me, that's a very subjective term that encompasses a lot because I know as even whatever demographic, we doom scroll everything. Rather, we doom scroll YouTube, we doom scroll IG, but when it comes to professional level stuff, I think I doom scroll LinkedIn sometimes. How about you?
Yeah, so it's good to be here, Patrick. I think we should say we're here at Comms vNext, which is a wonderful Microsoft-focused community event. However, it's interesting because, obviously we have participation from people at Zoom and Cisco, and increasingly, I think the ecosystem is getting broader. But back to your question, yes, I do get, I don't know, I don't want to say it's doom scrolling. I sometimes get locked into that. I'm learning about 42 new things. Sure. And so, some of it is doom and gloom, but a lot of it is just, okay, I need to know more about this and this and this. And so, whether that's on YouTube Shorts or then long form video or LinkedIn. But yes, so social media does play a big part in the professional world as well. And I think that that's what we're going to talk about here today.
I hope so. That could be just one of the topics, Kevin. You don't know where we're going to go. I think LinkedIn, even 10 years ago, was not viewed as a social media platform, right? It was, I think if you ask people what LinkedIn was 10 years ago, they'd say, oh, that's where you put your resume to get a job.
Yep.
Today, I'm sure you can still put your resume to get a job on LinkedIn, but I don't see that as the primary focus anymore for LinkedIn. I truly see that as a social media platform for professionals.
Yeah, no, I definitely would agree with that. I think, I think there is now maybe too much content that is being created, sometimes accelerated by AI. Mm-hmm. So there are people that are kind of dumping too much content there, but I think that they're increasingly, yes, 10 years ago it was all about your resume, occasionally just a few people would post, but now there is some, very useful and deep content on LinkedIn.
I probably started, 10 years ago, I was working for Microsoft. And this is an intro on how I got into social media. I'd already had a YouTube channel, I already had an IG account, but I was more of a consumption than creation. And when Teams kind of came out, my customers had a bunch of questions about Teams, and this was right when LinkedIn started doing video. And so my first iteration of content creation was literally just recording my screen. Not even any voice, not even any camera, just recording my screen and then describing what I was doing. That was my intro into social media as a professional. How about yourself?
Yeah, I think I started writing articles for No Jitter. Yeah. And the reason, I think what compelled me to do that is I got tired of listening to myself answer the same question, because people would ask the same question over and over again. And, technical questions have longer answers. So it's not just like a yes or no. A lot of times, setting up these complex systems, there's a lot of detail. And so I'm like, hey, here's the thing, maybe I'll write it down and then I could just refer people to that. And then, that worked out, I think, well. I had to repeat myself less. And then occasionally, people that I didn't even know, and this blew me away. Yeah. I walked into one meeting, it was with a law firm, and this was back in kind of the link, early Skype for Business days. And at the beginning of the meeting, the person said, "You're a prolific writer." And that really, Patrick, was the first time that I actually dawned on me that when I post things, people actually read them. Because, it was never clear. But, now there's more analytics and what have you. So it started with writing. But now certainly, my preferred format is video, because for me, it's also easier to create.
Okay.
Because I spend too much time when I start writing, I do too much research, and then the 750-word article like took me 7 weeks to write. So
yeah, even when I first started doing these demos, creating these demos for teams, kind of like you, I would go to a customer meeting and they're like, "Oh, I actually watched your video on how to do that," and I was like, "Well, that's the first time I'm like, people actually are consuming my content," and that's kind of where it all started evolving. Right. And then I started, I don't know why, I said, well, other people are putting their face on videos. Maybe I should start doing that. And my first video was just like, this was back when quality was not on the top of my priority list. It was just a webcam. There was no lighting. It was just this figurehead, a little box of me in the corner. And that was as I was evolving, expanding from just pure demos to now like face inside of videos. And it just kind of evolved from there. When you started doing videos, how comfortable were you to be on camera?
Not very comfortable, and I'm not sure I'm comfortable now. Like, because you with your Tattooed Nerd channel or whatever, like you've really upped the bar, and I've watched a bunch and like go, man, if I could ever get to that level. So I think, I like video in that it takes me less time, even when you do the prep or whatever. But I certainly am still learning, so I'm still not 100% comfortable. But I mean, you've done many videos and helped a lot of us get better at our own video. Is this just another day at the office for you?
No, it never is. I don't think even today I'm comfortable with I have a lot more confidence in my ability to be on camera. But I still get nervous. I still get the jitters. I still, stumble over words, and I make all the mistakes I made as a rookie. But it's just a little bit more refined today. And I guess I'm leading up to the point where I talk to a lot of people that are thinking about creating content, but are too afraid to pull the trigger because they're like, "Oh, I will not sound amazing and look like you do or the professionals." How do we get over that?
Yeah, I think so. For me, I think, and I think that this is your focus as well, which is you're thinking about the audience and you're trying to provide some valuable content, and you can only do that by doing. Yeah. And then one of the things that I really like is the opportunity for people to comment. So on, success for me, especially on LinkedIn, whether it's on a video or something that I write, is that interaction. Yep. And even when people say, "Hey, Kevin, yeah, I don't agree with this," or "You got this wrong," I mean, I appreciate that because that's learning for me. So I think that for anybody that, isn't willing, or has some trepidation about starting, I think do it. The community is generally supportive, I would say, certainly in this technology kind of ecosystem. It's not like celebrity bashing or what have you. So I don't know, but I think then, you do it, and then it is very hard, even to this day, to watch myself back. I was on the Enterprise Connect lock note this year, and this was maybe one of the very first times that I was trying to, pull a little clip out. And so I watched what I said, and this is rare. I said, wow, I actually sounded like I knew what I was talking about, and I didn't stumble over the words as much as I typically do. And when I watched the transcript, Patrick, anybody watching at home, I will say, I don't say or ah very much. My filler word is
Oh, that's it?
That's it. And so many things by the time I'm done, because I say that, and I just have to, slow down and just pause.
First of all, you must be comfortable because you wear like a chef's hat in a lot of your videos. So
that keeps it fun. So, see, being fun, that also gives you the opportunity to not take it so seriously.
I think I tell people that are wanting to start or are too afraid to start, I tell them I live by the 3E principle, and I just made this up. This is not an official thing. One is engaging,
Right?
two, educational, and then three, entertaining.
Yes.
If you can hit those three, you're going to be pretty successful. Right. And a lot of times I don't hit all three. I just try for one. I might do a video purely just for the educational part of it to show a new feature. I, of course, do some that are just entertainment. If you can combine all three of those, you've made not a viral video, but you're getting further along in your process.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned David Maldo and I do the AI chefs videos. Has nothing to do with cooking. We just use a lot of food analogies. It's really about recipes, but those are business tips to do better with AI. That just makes it fun, and I think hopefully it stands out a little bit. And because we're having fun, I think there is the educational component, but because we're having fun, I think potentially the audience,
Agreed,
has fun as well.
I think this audience too is, when I say this audience, a bunch of nerds watching your videos and my videos, is they're very forgiving, right? I think you and I are probably more critical of ourselves than our audience is, right? I think the more, obviously the entertaining, engaging, and educational, they don't care if your video is filmed from your phone. I don't think, now I'm a DSLR guy filming in 4K. That's just because I have a problem, an OCD level thing. But you don't have to do that to get started. You can literally just film from your phone if you're afraid to get started.
Yeah. There's and that's kind of a look, right? Because there's a bunch of people that do the walk around with their phone and while they're outside or whatever, and that becomes a look. And then when I see it on LinkedIn, I go, oh, that's that person, because that's their look. So I think to your point, I mean, your videos are super well produced and lit, and that's and that's your look. But I think you can definitely get started. And once again, if you've got something that you've learned, and I think that this is the thing, from the nerd perspective, when I learn something or if I read a book that was really insightful, I drive my family crazy because I'm telling them, you got to read this book. I tell everybody, you got to read this book. Yeah. Or when AI, you learn some new thing or new capability, you just want to tell everybody. And I think so if you've learned something, pick up your phone and share it and share it on LinkedIn, because I'm sure your community, some of them may know about it, but some of them won't, and that's real value.
That to me is leading to another topic, is just being authentic on camera, right? We all have seen every IT SaaS provider do an infomercial commercial thing, and you're 5 seconds in and you've just tuned out, right? Because you're like, this is a marketing scheme for some new feature, and it's like this great voiceover, and then there's fancy graphics, and you're like, that's a commercial. I think being authentic goes the opposite side. I'm not saying it has to be a horrible quality, but I think when people see, hey, there's just a dude sitting in front of his desk or a girl giving a demo, I've now taken out the marketing layer of it and say, this person is probably going to teach me something, and I'm more in tune to that type of content.
Yeah, I think, the authenticity, I mean, that's, for me, it's the serve, not sell. Because I think, everybody is so sophisticated now, to your point, you're a few seconds in, you're going, no, this is a commercial. I have no time for this. But if instead it's a story, and I think you really have emphasized that storytelling. Yeah. And I think that especially increasingly in this AI world, human authentic storytelling, I think that is going to, be higher valued than super slickly produced kind of commercial segments.
Yeah, and this leads into the next area, is that we've talked about, getting the courage to create content, how you should create content. But I guess my question for you is, why would somebody in the technology field want to or need to create content?
Yeah, so I think we covered a couple things. So if you find yourself repeating the same thing over and over again, maybe that just, lowers your level of frustration. But I really do think that we're learning a lot as technology changes really quickly. And obviously AI is the technology that is causing super rapid changes, week over week. I think there's a real value to sharing our learnings, because increasingly, whether it's in your communities, right? Like it's in your role, it's in, to be able to share that, I think that has, value. And I'm hoping that humanizes some of this technology. Mm-hmm. And it also, I think that you get, as I said before, you get that feedback. And so if you're doing something and say, hey, I'm doing something in this space, it's great, because a lot of times on these platforms, you'll get feedback and you'll get to meet virtually other people that you wouldn't have. So I think there's a lot of benefits for jumping in and creating some content.
I think, too, that creating content, not only just to share wisdom, right. Entertainment should not be your first thing. Those are the 3 E's. When you're first starting out, just being able to share the content as an educational purpose right. is an accomplishment enough. Engagement comes with just reps. Entertainment comes with just 10,000 hours of doing it. But I also think in this day and age, the content that you create, whether it's LinkedIn is one platform, right? There's IG, there's TikTok, there's YouTube, there's Threads, Facebook, there's so many. But I think it's important to understand that what you're creating is almost like a walking resume today for what you do. Yeah,
absolutely. It's certainly far better than the static, whatever 2-page resume that, So I think it really demonstrates your capabilities. And then the other thing that I find is it helps you better explain. Like I have some things that I think are great ideas, but it's like until you can actually communicate those ideas to others, they have no value. Yeah. They're stuck in my brain with, and so by either sitting down to write out what you're going to say or have the opportunity to, on video kind of explain something, I think you get better, more clear, more concise. And so the next time when somebody asks you or when you have to comment on it, you do a better job.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you with the scaling, how you kind of started out. As I think, I worked for Microsoft for 12 years, and I did do content for Microsoft. But then when I switched to Zoom, it just felt really inauthentic for me to, hey, I'm posting stuff about Teams on Friday, but Monday, look at this amazing Zoom product. So I took a year off from social media, and then I was getting asked, because I was the Microsoft guy, I was getting asked in all these sales meetings, hey, can you do the Zoom app demo inside of Teams? So I was joining all these calls, doing this demo over and over and over again till a point where it got really monotonous. And I'm like, why don't I just do a video about it? And it could be a 5-10 minute video, and then I can send it to the AE. They can send it to the customer, and they can watch me do the same demo I would have done live. And now I can scale, right? You can send that to 1,000 customers as opposed to Tattoo Nerd joining your meeting. So I understand the efficiency prospect there. And I guess that leads into my next question is do you think you should be doing social media for your job or for your personal brand?
Okay, before I answer that, I just want to circle back and say, if you haven't seen Patrick do the how Zoom integrates with Microsoft and Zoom inside of Microsoft Teams, it is, there you're hitting all 3 E's. It is both educational, but it is highly entertaining because you've made a lot of fun. So if anybody watching hasn't seen that, I'm sure you can find a video recording, or if you're here, I think you're going to be doing it a little bit later today. Okay. I think that you should, to answer your question, I think that, you probably want to do it for your personal brand. Okay. I think increasingly, people are moving from one organization to another. And I think that there is value to kind of, when you're being authentic, there's going to be, regardless of what, who your employer is, there's going to be certain things that you're going to, be interested in talking about and have some lessons to share.
Yeah.
Now, I think that then depending on your role, that they may expect you to also do that. But most of us, would not, our primary role would not be just creating social media for our employer. So I don't know. What do you think about answering your own question?
Yeah, you're going to turn it back on me. Okay. It's a twofold answer, I guess.
Okay.
Is that I have this persona that I built up on social media called the tattooed nerd, right? And it's a very ambiguous term, right? I'm obviously tattooed. I'm obviously in tech. I obviously work for Zoom, but if you watch the videos that I create, I almost create them at a level to be agnostic, right, so you don't know that I work for Zoom. I want to open up people's minds to say, hey, this is not a Zoom commercial. He's not trying to sell me a Zoom product. I do work for Zoom. I am talking about Zoom, but I do it in a way that even if you're a Microsoft Teams user, yep, or you've been in the Microsoft environment, you can understand why I'm talking about this. And I try to mix those two. I have this shtick too, right, that about Microsoft and Zoom. And I try to be really just authentic without bashing you over the head with, this is the way it is. This is the only way it is with Zoom. And if you use Microsoft, you're wrong. That's not what happens in the real world. So I don't want that to come across because that would be completely inauthentic to me. Now, to answer your question, because I didn't answer it, is I don't get paid in my job to produce content. That is what I do just for fun.
Yep.
But because I do a lot of Zoom content it's almost selfishly for my job as well, right? Because now I can have this ability to create content, and then consumers and customers that I'm working with can see this content and see, hey, this is how it works inside of our environment. This is the problem that it solves. And that's allowed me to create a brand that now when I go, the most fun thing is when I go to a customer meeting and they're like, oh my gosh, I just watched your video on the Zoom app demo inside of Teams.
Yeah.
It's immediate rapport. I'm not selling anything. They sort of not quote unquote trust me because they saw who I am before the meeting even starts. So I think it's very important to create content in a really authentic way, but in a truthful way, not as a corporate bot.
Yeah, 100% buy into that. Like, it's like I say, recommendations without requirements is just marketing. So if your content is always saying rah rah, this product is always the right solution, that can't be the case.
Yeah.
And so the same thing we've done with the AI chefs. Now, the AI chefs, we talk about, sometimes we focus on Microsoft. We've done some things that focus entirely on Zoom. But the point is, just like your tattoo nerd, it is an agnostic platform where we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of all the different solutions. And yes, occasionally, you may be asked to do a webinar for a particular vendor.
Right.
And that's fine. Yeah. But even then, when I work with vendors, I am very clear. It's serve, not sell. Like, it is like, I will talk about where this is a good fit, but I'm not going to say, it fits everything. And I think that that's the credibility that we both bring, is like, we're not trying to say, this solution is always the best, right? So, and I think that is back to, if you're going to create content, we've said this word authentic. I think, be authentic, be truthful, share what you've learned. But if something didn't work, those are the best case studies. Like, those are the case studies I want to listen to. It's like, don't tell me about the project where everything was unicorn and rainbows, because I've been doing this for 30 plus years and none of my projects, Patrick, have had any unicorns. They're all rainbows. So, I think that the good, the bad, the ugly, I think we all know in tech, especially, as you're more of a nerd, that, there is some challenges with all of this tech.
I sometimes, in the beginning especially, and I don't know if you come across this because you don't work for maybe for Zoom or at Microsoft, but I kind of got in a little trouble from the marketing team and or the legal team because I was coming across as this Zoom, I don't know, figurehead, and people were like, you know, you need to throttle that down a little bit, and so in the beginning I started saying things like, hey, I do work for Zoom. This is not sponsored by Zoom by any means. I am just trying to share content about the Zoom platform, and that worked in the beginning because I think I was kind of stepping on marketing's toes a little bit by doing these things, right? And so there is a balancing act when you do work for a Microsoft or a Zoom or a Cisco, and you're doing content based on that. But that's not to prevent somebody else from doing the exact same content that doesn't work for Zoom or doesn't work for Cisco. Right? It's like we have the freedom of speech to literally do videos about anything, about anyone, and that's just part of it, right? So I know you as an analyst, you have to weigh the pros and cons of talking bad or good about a certain product, but I know you well enough that you are certainly honest when it comes to that, and I think that comes across in your video stuff.
I hope so, and. You know, here's a question for you, because one of the things that I found that was interesting is, so I think that this year at Enterprise Cast was the 16th year I was asked to give the independent overview of kind of where Microsoft ecosystem is, right? Okay. So I've never worked for Microsoft, unlike you, but but when I started doing that after a couple of years, the audience voted in a sense and said, oh, you're the Microsoft expert. So, but I didn't, you know, I'm like, yes, I know a lot about Microsoft, but I'm like, I don't work for Microsoft. People then thought I worked for Microsoft. And I'm like, no, that's just a topic that I cover. What has been your experience with, you know, in some ways you can brand yourself as being agnostic, but then the audience can kind of put a label on you. Have you kind of been subject to that? Because I've then sometimes tried to, okay, I'm going to do less of this content and more of this just so that I can try to strike a balance, but that's a very difficult thing to do. I don't know. Have you experienced that?
Yeah, 100% I have. If you have followed me at all, you know I do a lot of Microsoft and Zoom content. Right. Like a lot. That's an important topic, and everyone that we meet with typically are talking about that. But I've also done a ton of Google and Zoom content, right? I've done a lot of Zoom contact center content. I do a lot of Zoom phone content. That has nothing to do with Microsoft and Zoom. It's because I've done content on presentation skills. I've done content on better lighting in your AV environment. But I still get labeled as that there's a Microsoft Zoom guy, right? Yeah. Which is good and bad. It means I was so good at it maybe that people are like, I was listening and it makes sense. And but I also don't want to be labeled as that. It's kind of like an actor, right? Right. Being labeled as, that's the vampire from the True Blood. He can only be a vampire for the rest of his life. Yeah. Right? So yeah, I've totally experienced that as well.
Yeah, there you go. So, have we gone through your list of questions? You came up with them.
I did.
I see you pulled out your phone. I see maybe you're double checking.
So now we've decided as a nerd, we're going to create content. Right. We're going to create content on whatever tech field you're amazing at, whether it's security, compliance, UCAS. It doesn't really matter to me. That's up to you to figure out. The platforms are going to be LinkedIn. You might expand into YouTube. I guess that's the next question is, LinkedIn is a very different platform than YouTube. Those are the two that I use. Right. What do you think those big differences are? Why you would go with one or two or both?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I am much more familiar with LinkedIn. I mean, AI Chefs is also on YouTube, and I think initially I would say, you know, start, you know, and you're not going to have a giant audience or whatever, but you probably have some followers, and, you know, LinkedIn might be a place to start so that you can get some of that feedback, because certainly, you know, I want to try out something, but before I kind of go and create 42 episodes of something that nobody found interesting, you know, I think start where you've got a little bit of a foundation. And for most people, I suspect that would be LinkedIn. as opposed to YouTube, because I think on YouTube you've got to kind of, build that following.
There's a whole science to social media algorithms,
Right?
That is way above even this topic in this podcast, and you can go down a rabbit hole real quick there. I don't chase followers. I don't chase subscribers. Right. I literally do it just to help and entertain. Followers will come, subscribers will come. So you're creating content. You've decided to do LinkedIn and/or YouTube. What's your format of choice? And I'll tell you my format of choice, and you can tell me yours. We talked a little bit about earlier before the podcast even started. There's two basic kind of forms that you can do. You can do a 16:9 format, which is just like your phone, like 16 long, 9 ratio, and your videos come across in a mobile platform better.
Right.
Or you can do 9:16, which is the way your desktop is, right? That's a 9:16 ratio, like a movie, a long form video versus short form video. I am a long form video guy.
Right.
I like 9:16 format. I like longer videos, 4, 5, 10 minutes long. There's a whole theory on short form versus long form. So if you're starting out, what are you doing?
Well, okay. So I don't really know what the right answer is. So I continue to experiment. So if, for example, with the AI chefs, we do these short, 2-minute, little recipes, tips on how to use one aspect of AI. But then on Tuesdays, we have the AI Chefs Live, which is a longer form, recap the interesting AI news. Mm-hmm. So we do both. And the good news is, I work with some pretty good AV pros, so we typically shoot it, wide, but then increasingly the tools can do a good extraction of the shorts.
Yep.
If I ever say anything short and pithy, right? So that is something I'm working on. I'd like to say I'd be better at shorts, but so I think a lot of technical discussions or things that I'm trying to help people with. They're a little longer in format to set it up. I do also try, to incorporate some visuals, because a lot of times you can do a lot of hand waving, but if I'm just trying to describe a network diagram, it'd be better for me just to show you a network diagram as opposed for me to try to draw things in the air. And I think that that's better suited to the wide format.
Agreed. Okay. So the answer is we don't know, Kevin, apparently.
But experiment.
Experiment.
That's always, but and I think that's my lesson learned here. I am no expert, but through experimentation, I have certainly, gotten better and gotten good feedback from the community.
Yep. Same. So now we've decided to do YouTube and LinkedIn. We've decided to do long and short form. How do you prepare for those first videos? When I'm asking this, are you just hitting record and hoping for the best, or do you think you need to script it out and then rehearse from a script, whether that's a teleprompter or reading from a text file? What do you prefer?
Yeah, so I've done both. I think that there is a lot of times there's obviously value in some preparation and knowing what you're going to talk about. And then, depending on who you're with, on the AI Chefs, the live news piece, we we use a Zoom doc, so we post the stories. I'll pick 2, and David Maldo will pick 2, and sometimes we've read the stories ahead of when we start.
Of course.
But but that is more of a discussion like we're having today. We didn't script this out. You probably can tell this isn't. But and I think that works for some things. But certainly, if you're trying to clearly and concisely, describe a technical integration or something like some of the stuff you do with Zoom and Microsoft. I think that the first time you do it, you've done it thousands of times. Yeah. But the first time you do something technical, I think you do want to script it out. And depending on, how it works for you, I get really nervous if I have to read an exact script. Yeah. So I if I do bullet points.
Yeah.
Because that way I go, okay, I've got the sequence, I've maybe practiced it a couple of times, but I don't get thrown off by missing one word in the teleprompter.
Yep.
I think you've talked about using some teleprompter stuff.
Yeah.
I think you're more adept at that than I am.
That's just because I've screwed up 1,000 times, Kevin. That's just how you learn. You just
Right.
you get it wrong a lot of times before you get it right. And again, there's no right or wrong answer, right? There's certainly when you are just freewheeling it and coming off the top of your head, there's depending on how you're good at it you might be able to have a coherent thought coming right off the top of your head and it goes smoothly. And you might say, or a few times, and that's okay. The other side is when you read from a script, you can be robotic,
Right.
and that all of a sudden your whole audience is left. Be like, well, this dude's just reading from a script, right? So there's a balance, and that literally just takes 10,000 hours of practice. Like I'm going to tell you right now, if you're jumping into this and after this podcast, you're like, I'm going to do a video, it's going to be horrible. I'm going to tell you right now, it will be horrible. And that's okay. That's growth. You're not perfect at something the very first time. Well, at least I'm not.
No, I don't think anybody's. But I think, Patrick, just to encourage the audience, you said if. I think if you've watched this far, I think you must make something and post it. And I think it will be horrible. It'll especially be horrible when you watch it.
Yeah.
Because it's always hard to watch yourself. You sound different. You go, why did I make those mannerisms? Why did Kevin wave his hand so much? But I think that, the truth is there's value to doing that, and I think it won't be as horrible. And then when you do it the next time, you'll get better. And to your point of whether you script it or whether you just, do it freewheeling, you're going to figure out what you're most comfortable with, and you're going to do it a bunch of times, and then probably you'll be comfortable with both of those things.
Yeah. I guess now we've outlaid this whole plan, right? You're going to do a whole bunch of videos now that Kevin just asked you to do it. Short or long form, we don't care. The next question is, do you expand beyond just your deep technical niche? What I mean is, do you talk about things other than technical stuff? For example, I posted the other day about coaching my son's college flag football team. Has nothing to do with Tattooed Nerd, nothing to do with Zoom or Microsoft. But I posted something like that, and if you read it, I did tie in how coaching flag football tied into my business side of things. But how far do you go outside of your little box of technical ability? I think you go a little bit outside that box because people are watching you. They're probably watching you because they like you after a while, right? They see your content. They start to like you. They start to embrace you.
Right.
Posting stuff maybe a little personal about you opens you up to be even more authentic. What do you think?
100% agree. I think that, the storytelling aspect is critically important. To tell a good story, it's probably not just all in the technical documentation.
Yeah.
I think most people would know I have a Siberian Husky. Heidi Elmore this morning's like, how's your dog?
Yeah.
After a few years, because I try to weave those stories in at Enterprise Connect, people are like, did you bring your dog? I'm like, I live in Toronto. We're in Orlando. No, I did
Probably
not fly my dog down. But I think that, yes, I think that when you can, that makes you, that humanizes. And I think it does create a story. And if there's something that you're passionate about, because I think passion is a big thing. I think we love technology. We love what technology can do and how it can help people. And I think that passion comes through when you talk about something outside of business that you're also passionate about, whether that's a sport or dogs or whatever.
Okay, so now we've talked about all the things. We're building you up here. We're giving you this information. Now you did your video. The next question is about consistency.
Yes.
Because you don't just post that video and just hope the followers just come flowing in from the woods. You got to post another video and more content. What kind of consistency rate should users that are new to this start out with?
Okay, so pick a cadence that you can stick with. So to start with, because you're going to be unsure and, I don't know, I'd say don't pick daily. Don't pick, even weekly's hard. So maybe every 2 weeks, I mean, even monthly would be fine if you're going to stick to it, right? So the more important thing, is cadence. And the other thing is when you post it, you talked about the magic and science of the algorithms. The truth is, when you post your video once, it doesn't show up in everybody, even on LinkedIn, it doesn't show up in all your followers' feed. So don't be, afraid to repost it or to cut out little pieces and create shorts. So especially if you do long form video, like that, if you did that once a month, you could get a lot of shorts or a lot of little clips out of that you could repost. So I think cadence, so pick a cadence that you can stick with, and then if you do it and are enjoying it, and getting more people, and if then you can ramp that up. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. Again, I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer. I think don't make this a job that's laborious.
Right.
Make it a job, quote unquote, that you enjoy. Because if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to do it. That's just the simple. I enjoy doing it. And I know we've talked a lot about video posting, but you don't have to post videos every time, right? It can just be words. It could just be copyright with a picture. I implore you, I know this is the age of AI, do not use AI to create your post. You can use them as an inspiration for your posts, but please don't just, hey, ChatGPT, create a LinkedIn post on topic X and then you post that. You'll be found like that. I can tell you, I know exactly when they use ChatGPT to create their copyright, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, and I know we have just a few minutes left. Do use AI to brainstorm.
Yeah.
And you can say, hey, take a look at my LinkedIn profile. What are some topic areas that, might be interesting for me to cover? Are there any ideas you have about working in a unique kind of format or whatever? But that's a great brainstorming, but 100%, don't use AI to write your script and, or write your copy, because, that is not the humanizing that we're talking about.
Kevin, I want to thank you. Eric had asked me to do this podcast at Enterprise Connect and to come up with a topic, and this is a passion of mine. And so I thought, what other perfect host could I do to ask? And Kevin. So I just wanted to extend a thank you for joining me today, and I hope somebody learned something.
Well, thanks. I found the topic super interesting. It caused me to reflect on, kind of why I started and some of the things that we've covered. And I'm super looking forward to all of the new videos that are going to be produced and posted. And you can do, hashtag comms vNext.
Yeah.
And then Patrick and we can check them out. So, thank you very much for having me. It's been a great discussion.
Well, enjoy the rest of comms vNext, and thanks for listening. I appreciate it.